Each year, the Commonweal opens its season with a festival dedicated to the life and work of Henrik Ibsen, Norway's premier playwright. Internationally renowned Ibsen scholars, Norwegian food, folk displays, and demonstrations immerse the small town of Lanesborough in the world of Ibsen. And, at the core of the festival, a professional production by the Commonweal Theatre. This year, it's the world premiere of playwright Jeffrey Hatcher's adaptation of A Doll's House.
In many respects, A Doll's House is considered Ibsen's first modern play. Leaving behind the conventions of 19th century melodrama, he crafted a play which focused on many of the issues which beset women of his time.
I play Nora, who is the central figure of the play. She is a housewife. It is a role that she expects to play and a role that she is expected to play.
Each character in A Doll's House is forced to examine his or her own life and then react accordingly.
In many ways, I feel that Torvald is just as trapped by that marriage and just as trapped in those sort of traditional gender roles, that he has to be the strong husband, he has to be this pillar of control always. He's not mean, he's just sort of uninformed and ignorant of how that could be condescending.
Can a woman be the perfect mother and the perfect wife if she hasn't figured out how to be the perfect her? And that, I think, is the main struggle for this character.
I think for Krogstad, he's marginalized as once a criminal, always a criminal. What he's really trying to do is raise his children, and I think that's what he bases his whole livelihood on. Is my family proud of me? Am I doing right by my family?
The universality of the play lies in our desires not to have to examine too deeply the conditions in which we exist. A common maxim for today's society is live for the moment. This, of course, is easier said than done.
I think it's really difficult for anybody to get through life without putting on a facade or acting in a way that might be contrary to who you truly are.
It's a really interesting thing, especially in today's day and age where everything is so permanent in a way that if you ever make a claim about something or say something, it's out there on Facebook, on email, and that you can really get hemmed in and defined by one single comment or characteristic. And so oftentimes I find myself being careful about what I say or how I express myself simply because of how other people might view me or how other people might perceive me to be.
I feel like there are times when I act slightly differently in my work life as I do in my home life, or with my family versus my friends. But I think that I also have been really lucky in that I've never really truly had to change who I am.
I was in a job that I was doing very well at, but it was increasingly becoming frustrating for me. And I one day asked myself, why do I have this job? Why do I stay here? And the answer was basically, I have a mortgage to pay. And then I asked, well, why do I have a mortgage? And when I came right down to it, the reason I had a mortgage at that time in my life was because most people I knew had one.
We all have roles to play in society, and we often get to choose those roles for ourselves. But when our culture defines the parameters of that role, does that leave room for equality?
What we're seeing right now with Supreme Court arguments for gay marriage. We as a society, while we think we might have come very far, we're still having these very basic, fundamental conversations about equal rights.
I don't necessarily want to use the word victim, but I was very specifically in a situation where I was not getting paid the same amount as a male counterpart in that exact same position, despite the fact that I had more experience. And when I had the opportunity to actually question my boss about this practice, I was told that men eat more.
There's still subtle racism out there in society, and I think we've made strides. And I think it's now upon us all to take those moments in life and really to educate one another. Have those conversations, not be afraid of those conversations. And I know Doll's House is going to bring up conversation. People are going to want to talk about that.